Hello. Welcome back. I figured I'd take a break from the feed for a while. Instead of working on this pickup, I figured I'd do some work on that. And boy, have I made a lot of progress. So I got the diesel engine air cleaner off, got the starting engine air cleaner off. Ignore the rest of that in there. I got both of the air cleaners off, and I got the Magneto out and the electric start for the pony motor. And what else did I take out? Well, I took out all the other associated hardware. So I thought I would show you guys what I've been doing. Yeah, the air cleaner's going for the pony motor. I put the air intake and stuff, or the intake pipe back on for it, and tightened all that down just to keep dirt and crap out of the carburetor. Carburetor has to come off next. And the problem with taking the carburetor off of these pony motors is that, let me get you in here. It's held on by studs. Hang on, you can't see the stud from that side. It's actually kind of hard to see. It's right back in there, off the end of my screwdriver. There's another one on the other side, and it's supposed to, lift up, right? But anyone that's watched rebuilds on these pony motors, well, you know that this block right here, there's a tube that runs underneath over there to the breather and the oil fill for the pony motor. And well, this is the main intake for the diesel engine. This is where that diesel engine air cleaner bolts. Well, the way Caterpillar designed this, you can't take this block and tube and breather element and unbolt it and just slide it out from underneath. You can't do that. You have to take this off. And in order to take that off, well, let me crawl up here. In order to take that off, you got to disconnect this exhaust pipe. And then there's another one down there. Excuse that rag. That's just to stop the, because there's a big cavity into the gear train for the pony. That's just to keep dirt and stuff out of there since that mag's gone. But down here, there are two bolts that hold that stumpy little pipe on. That's not such a big deal. There's a bolt up here. That's not bad. But right there, there's a stud. And I don't like studs. You want to know why I don't like studs? Because this is what happens. This is rusty, okay? This has seen a lot of heat and a lot of cool because it's, an exhaust. And so that stud's probably not going to want to come out very easily. I'm probably going to break it. I'm going to have to replace it. And I don't want to do that because I'm more afraid of cracking this casting here. And I really don't want to do that. Oh well. It's going to have to come out because there's no way to get that carburetor out otherwise, and it has to come out. So the reason I started taking all of this apart, well, before I get into that, let me show you one other thing that's broke that I found out. So this is the exhaust for the pony, and this is all one piece right here. Well, that's not, but this is all one piece right here, all of it. This is a stud, this is a bolt. Now if you look really closely there, right there, that's cracked. That's that ear, it just falls off. And I didn't break that. I didn't do anything to it. It's always kind of blown oil out of there if you overfill it, and it kind of smokes when it's running. And I figured, well, that's just because the gasket's bad. Well, the gasket may have been bad, but I didn't think it was. But that crack right there, that flange, that ear is shot. And I don't know what I'm going to do to fix it. Excuse me. I'm not much of a welder, especially, just with soft steel and an arc welder, but talking about welding cast iron, I am not even close to being good enough for all that. So I don't know what I'm going to do there. But I brought you over to this side so you can see that breather. There's that tube that runs back across. So it separates right down here. And they're just two bolts that hold it on. But the problem is there's like a little lip on this part that stops this from being able to just slide right out. And that doesn't make me very happy because now I have to take that air intake out for the diesel. And I really don't want to do that because I'm afraid I'm going to break those bolts off. I'm going to make new gaskets for everything when it goes back on. That's not, that's a given. And then, I don't know. So you can get a closer look at that little short pipe in there. These are going to be hard to get to. I don't even think I can get a ratchet on them. I'm going to have to use a wrench, which might be a good thing. I may not over torque it then, trying to loosen it, but it's still going to be a pain. It's going to come off. This right here is the mount for the electric start. You know, this is okay, and everything else in here is okay. The in-play on the crankshaft and the pulley and stuff, it's, you know, it's fine. It's not excessive or anything like that. So the reason I took all this apart, if you guys remember, and hopefully you don't, if you're like a new subscriber, you won't hopefully have seen it, but I made a video a while back about a better walk around of this tractor, and upon reflection, I didn't really like it. It wasn't very high quality, and so I decided to leave it up. But I'm still not very happy with it. I'm kind of disgusted that I uploaded it, actually. But the point is, in that video, this thing was running. That is the last time this tractor has run. It has not run since then. And the reason why is because I can't get the pony motor to run right. I can pull, because the electric start is not working. Let me just put it that way. The belt's loose and stuff like that. But so I have to pull start it. Well, for a while it was fine because it, you know, it fired right up after a few pulls and, you know, it would go. But it doesn't do that anymore. And I sat out here the last time. I pulled on this for like an hour and a half. And let me tell you, I was feeling it the next day. But this did not, it fired up. It ran for a couple seconds. And in the time it took me to walk from over there around to the other side to mess with the choke and the throttle, it had already died. And at that point, and this was like shortly after I started pulling on it, and then it never fired again. I never even got it to do anything. So I decided at that point, there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be done to this that I have procrastinated on for a very, very long time. And I decided, well, I might as well do it because this is essentially broken. It doesn't run, and it's not in an inconvenient spot. So I figured, well, I can't break it worse, because what's worse than breaking it to where it can't run? It can't run right now. So if I break it worse to where it can't run, well, that's not any worse than it was when I started. You know what I'm saying? So what I came out here to do today was to pull this main air intake off, get the carburetor and the breather out of the way. I'm going to do that here in a minute. All right, so here's that stuff I was telling you guys about. Oh gosh, the sun came out. Let me put my glasses on here. All right, so this is the governor. Governor's okay. I have been into this. I got to make a new gasket for this here, and I think there was a gasket back here where it splits. I got to make a new gasket for both of those. Everything in there is fine. It spins really easy. There's nothing wrong with it. There's a little rod that rides in this housing here. I'm going to put a little spray grease in there, just kind of help it out so it doesn't wear. The biggest problem with this is that spring is shot. I'm going to get another spring and put on, and then the governor will be okay. And I'll put it back on, and it'll just run nice and dandy. There's the water temperature gauge. The end of this here, this was inside the cooling system, and you can see that's I want to say calcium, but that's not right. I think it's lime. From, well, neglect. The cooling system's probably never been washed, and also hard water, because we mix our own antifreeze, and I'm not overly concerned. That's a tough old little tractor. I'm not concerned about the hard water in it necessarily, but it does need to be washed, and so I'm probably going to get washing soda and get the pony running really good. And I'm not just going to drain it and refill it. I'm going to actually flush it and wash it and all that stuff. So that'll all happen with the cooling system on that. But the water temperature gauge, and I'm not throwing it away because that's a neat gauge, but I don't think it works. I'm just gonna get a new one. This right here is I don't know what you would call it. It's essentially the adapter for the starter. There's a gear in there, you can see it, and this gear is in really good shape. I'm happy with it. But the starter, it engages with that gear, and that gear is tied to this pulley, and of course that pulley has the belt on it, which ties the flywheel on the pony motor, and that's how it all spins. I need to get this apart. Well, I wanted to get it apart to begin with, just to clean it up a bit and stuff, and so the pulley and the gear are held together with these 3 screws, and they all spin on this common shaft. This right here is just a cover plate that I also need to get off because it needs a little bit of work done to it. It's there's some cracks down in here that I need to fix up. But the biggest reason I need to get this apart now is because I broke it. You see that crack right there? Yeah, that was me trying to drive the shaft out. I'm not sure which way it goes out. If you know, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I need to go on the forum at the ACMOC website and ask those guys, you know, how do you get that out? Because I don't want to break this anymore. I know I said earlier that I am not a very good welder or much of a welder at all, but I tell you what, I'm gonna try and weld that. And it's probably not gonna work. I'm probably gonna tear it up more, but it's already torn up as it is, and I can't really use it. And you know what? If that piece breaks off there, it's not the end of the world, because this is still usable. If I screw this up down here and like a chunk of this falls off, it's still usable. As long as this up here is good and I got enough metal around it to help keep this stable and solid, I'll be okay. I don't want to break this, but if I end up breaking it trying to fix it, it's not the end of the world. I'll find another one in the future and it'll be fine. But the starter here, and I'm not going to take it apart because it's kind of a pain to get all those brushes back around the stator, you know. But the starter is good. There's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, the brushes are probably about 60%. They're the nice solid copper brushes. I'm happy with that. This needs to be cleaned a little bit, and that spring there is kind of weak. I'm going to see if I can get a replacement spring and put in there. I know it's not supposed to have a lot of pressure on it, but it should have more pressure on it than it has, because when this is all energized, it throws that gear forward like so and turns. But you know, the spring's not really kicking it back like it should be. So the starter's okay. The button right here, I got a new button. It's gonna go on there. There's some copper contacts in here. They're kind of dirty. This button's usable. I'm not gonna toss it, but I'm not gonna keep it on there. I'm just gonna put the new button on, and I'm gonna get good electrical connectivity that way. Because the way I was hooking this up to power it, to start it, was I hook jumper cables on to battery on the pickup or whatever, and the positive would attach to this stud here, and then I just ground it on the engine somewhere. And I don't think my power flow was very good. I must have been getting a lot of resistance. I'm going to modify that. Now, some of you guys might say, well, why don't you just fix the generator and rewire all that? And I was like, well, I don't want to. That's why. Because the battery box is clear over by the shop and it's rusted out, and I don't want to fix it. So this is the Magneto. I'm not going to take it apart, but this is pristine. There's nothing wrong with this Magneto internally. It's working fine. I'll bet you it's throwing a spark enough to jump a cow with. And back here, we take a look at this gear. It doesn't have a lot of oil on it now, but when I pulled it out of the gear train on the pony, this had oil on it, and you know, there's nothing wrong with it. This thing is in excellent shape. I am not disappointed in the slightest. So the Magneto is good. It's just going to get a new ground wire. Then this is what runs to the switch. So this is going to get a new ground wire, and it's going to get 2 new leads on it, because in here we have all of the leads and the oil pressure gauge that I broke. See, there's a stud. There's supposed to be another stud right there. It's obviously not. But that's a neat old gauge. I'm not throwing that away either. Oh, better not drop it in the meantime. Because, yeah, they got these clamps that, well, they go on like that on the machine, and it holds that gauge against these so that it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm going to have to get a new oil pressure gauge. That's not debatable. You guys don't need to see my address. I ordered a lot of stuff from Rock Auto for this pickup that all this is sitting on, but you guys don't need to see my address. So the mag is good, the starter is good, the governor is okay. That's probably not going to be okay by the time I get done with it, but it's usable. And like I said, the other stuff I need to do on that is, well, just get the air intake off, get the carburetor out, and then cover it all up real good and see if I can't rebuild that carburetor. So Squatch 253 has actually been finishing up a lot of the stuff on his starting engine for that D2 he's rebuilding. And if you're not watching Squatch's channel, what are you doing with your life? Honestly, you're sitting here wasting your time with my stuff when you could be watching his channel, which is about 1,000 times more interesting. And he just conveniently is getting done with his starting engine stuff. So I'm excited to see, because he said he's got a whole series filmed already on rebuilding the Magneto and the carburetor, and I'm really excited to see all that. That back in here, safe and sound. But I'm really excited to see all that and how he rebuilds the carburetor. I know it looks like I'm hopping on the bandwagon of Caterpillar stuff now that it seems quote-unquote popular, but working on that, doing all this stuff, like I said, I've been intending to do this for a couple years now, but I've never had the time or the wherewithal to do it. Set that in there so it's safe. But it's time to, now that it's broke, because I was operating on the principle of, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and now everything's broke on it to the point where I can't run it, so I gotta fix it now. And Squatch 253 is pretty stinking helpful. He gave me a lot of, I mean, they don't build these D4s exactly the way they do the D2s, but they build them pretty damn similar, and that was a good starting point. Really helped me out on some stuff, and I've read my fair share of articles and whatnot on how to work on them. Joining the Antique Caterpillar Machinery Operators Club, though, that's going to pay dividends here pretty darn quickly once I start looking for parts and getting mechanical advice. But I'm also fortunate in that I've got two older relatives, my granddad and my great uncle, who ran this thing like their whole lives. They weren't cat skinners. Well, I guess they kind of were, but not like the other old timers were. But they've run it and they've worked on it and they know stuff about it, so I can always ask them, and that helps. See, all that's in there nice and safe and sound out of the elements. But anyway, this will get put back together. I'm going to get the carburetor and stuff off. I've rambled on for too long now. This is going to be a long stinking video, but I'm going to get the carburetor and stuff off, and I'll let you guys know how that went here in a little bit. So wish me luck. All right, I got the air intake off. I got this covered up because this is the intake manifold for the diesel. I don't want dirt getting in there. I got both of these exhaust lines for the pony plugged. Now here's something weird. This right here, that's loose. That should not be loose. I did not mistakenly loosen that bolt or that nut there, because even if I had, this one here should be tight. That is not tight. I don't care who you are. I don't know why that wasn't just blowing exhaust out through there, or maybe it was and I didn't see it. Maybe the dirt and the grease was shielding it, like sealing it up. But that's going to have to get pulled and fixed. I cannot leave that like it is. I may just put a thicker gasket in and that might solve it. But all of this came off surprisingly easily. I didn't break anything. Here's a taste right there of some of the hardware that came off of this. Let me get you in the light a little. It's just not in the best shape. It's in good enough shape that I can copy it and I can put some stuff back. That broken ear, that's it right there. I have a different camera set up there because I'm trying some different stuff for filming. If that camera works out, then it'll just be great. But in case the video that I made doesn't work out, I'm going to go ahead and update you on the camera, or on my phone here. So this is what she looks like here. Get on the other side. All right, so this in here, that's dirty. That needs to be cleaned, actually. Here, that's not light. I don't know how well you guys can see in there. Maybe not well at all. It's dirty though. It's got to be cleaned. That stud has seen better days. I'm going to pull it. This is a gasket right there. I'm going to replace that gasket for sure. This, I think there's a gasket on here. Yeah, there is. This is going to get a new gasket. This is going to get a new gasket. You get a new gasket, and you get a new gasket. You get a new gasket. Yeah, I'm going to Oprah the gaskets here. Oh, little pinhole there. This thing. Well, that's not. Well, it's rusty, that's for sure. Oh, you get a new gasket. Is that a? That's not a steel gasket there. But Yeah, it's dirty. It's dirty, all right, but she'll be okay. I don't think I'm going to get a new stud for that. But I do know... Do I know what goes on there? Yes. Yes, I know what goes on there. That nut goes on there. That's what goes on there. Okay. And then you see this bolt with these two lock washers? I'm going to do this one-handed. Watch how cool I am. I'm going to take this here. And that is also going to get put back on there. Like so. Except it's going to get tightened down so that I don't lose that ear. Now, where else do we have that shouldn't fall off? All right, so one of these, where does this one go? I think it goes underneath here. Seems like it. This nut goes on there. You know, they actually turn really easily. I'll bet you if I dressed them with a tap and die, I'll bet they'd be okay. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pull them and I'm going to replace them. I had more hardware. Where did it go? All right, so another thing, this compression release lever here, it sits right there. This is stiff. Like, this is really hard to operate, and it shouldn't be. But I got it off, you know, and I was looking at it. It's brass. It's brass. I think this is bent. I had my granddad over here the other day looking at the brushes on that starter because he knows more about those starters than I do. I had him look at the mag, too, and he saw this, and he said, you know, I'll bet that's bent. And he said, you might bend that back. And he said it was like this as long as he could remember. But it's so stiff, because that runs a compression release, you know. And it's so stiff when you pull it back this way and that way. And it's only getting worse every time I run it. So that's not good. So you can see the carburetor and the breather / oil fill for the pony. You can see it real clear right there. And it's just so irritating that would not come out without pulling that intake off. I mean, it really is. That would have made it so much easier, but that's not the way it worked out. That's okay. I'm going to get studs and bolts. It's going to get new hardware. That's not debatable. Right now, I'm going to get the cleaner and the pony off. I'm going to take a brush and kind of get some of the dirt and gunk away, and I'll pull it all off, and we will go from there. So I'll get back to you guys when that is done. Okay, well, the camera quit on me. Probably should have charged it more. Carburetor's off. They're studs. And the way they have this set up, these two studs right there, in order to get the carburetor off, as you're loosening the studs, you have to pick it up so you can take them all the way off, because otherwise they interfere. You know, the nuts start running into the sides of the carburetor. But this thing in here it smells like old gas. It is not in good shape. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to get it apart. And then I'm going to see about rebuilding it. You know, I might as well rebuild it. If I'm going to go all the trouble taking it apart, I might as well rebuild it. But the carburetor is out of there now. And so is the oil breather, which is over on the pickup. I didn't show you guys that. But it's out, and everything, that's where there's like a filter element in there, like a screen for the breather, and it's all clean in there. I just covered it with a shop towel. All this is going to get covered up real good with a proper rag, and then the hood and everything's going to go back on, and it's going to get buttoned down pretty tight, just keep everything out of it. It's going to be a while before I get back to this, so yeah, there's just 2 screws that hold that breather in, and then it comes out. And then once you got the main air intake / exhaust for the pony, once you got all that out of the way, this stuff comes out pretty easy. Nothing here was really hard to get out. It all turned easy, so that's good. I'll just have to address this. Oh, those don't go in there. Those go in here. Yep, got to put them in there so I don't lose them. There's another one right there. Come on, don't drop them on camera. Yeah, there we go. All right. Pretty sure I'm not going to lose any of this stuff now. I'll go put... Here's a couple other... There's that stud I was worried about right there. And it's getting replaced, I can tell you that. It's actually in better shape than I thought it would be, but it's getting replaced, and so is that bolt right there. Those are the 4 bolts that hold the carburetor down. or hold the air intake to the carburetor. We'll take those over there too. And let me get all my stuff situated here. And then here's the air intake for the pony motor. So yeah, pretty productive day. Got that off. That's the breather and stuff. That block sits on top of the carburetor, and then that sits on top of the carburetor like so. That's not going to stay there, but important thing to remember if you're doing this, these 3 holes right here, they all take the longer bolts. That one there gets a shorter bolt, and they tap into the carburetor because carburetor's mounted to the pony, and then all that stuff ties into this. So there you go, you have that. Let's see, this goes over, that goes over with that. And what else was there? There was something else I was going to show you guys before I called the video. I think that's it. I think that's it. That's what she looks like. Got her all buttoned up real good, or I will. And then I'll get to cleaning stuff, fixing it. There will be little videos on that, because that should be in the shop. So I'll make little videos on that as needed. When I get the money put together, I'll order me some parts for that and all the other stuff. But like I said, it's gonna be a while before I get back to this, because I went in the other day and I had tires priced for that pickup, and the guy said in there, the manager, who I like, he said he could get me 4 tires for about $800, and that's installed and everything, and that's not bad. That is not bad at all. So I probably ought to do that before the price goes up or availability becomes, an issue. So that's where my next paycheck is probably gonna go, is buying tires. But I never checked the oil in this. Well, it smells good. That smells like old gas. Is she? Well, it's nice and thick, so there's no gas in there. I'm happy about that. But no, looks a lot different with without all that stuff on there. But I'm gonna get it cleaned up real good and fixed up. I'm gonna look into, I might pull the valve cover on the diesel, because like I said, to pull the compression release, I think they're called lifters that, make the engine go in and out of compression. I think the lifters are like, they got carbon covering them and stuff. But that's a later project. I want to focus on the pony motor right now, because diesel's never going to run again if that pony motor is not working. Oh, excuse me. And in case I didn't say earlier, because this will all be part of one video, and I know it's longer than a well rope, I'm trying not to talk too much. But in case I didn't make it clear, to pull this out here, you have to drain the coolant level down on the diesel, and the drain for the coolant is right there right off the end of my finger. It's right there, and you open that up, and the rest of it's like right there. So if you put a bucket right under there and you open that up, it'll drain out. And then if you want air to get in there, you can loosen that gauge, because there's like a wire in the little thermometer that sticks in there. So if you loosen that and you pull it out, it'll actually suck air in and it'll drain faster. But that's how you do that, just in case I forgot to mention it. The rest of this, I'll just get her buttoned up, because it's getting late in the day. So I'm going to get this all buttoned up. I'm going to get all my stuff put away and go in, start processing video, and I'll get something up soon enough. So until then, thank you guys for watching, and just, I guess, stay tuned. I know I don't upload very often, but I will be back. I promise you that. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Take care.